let's start a new project, and let's use the dimensions 12 by 8, 3/4 inch thick. Click OK. Okay, our project opens up here. We're going to do a kind of a decorative box lid. These same techniques could be used for picture frames and other things as well, but we're going to be exploring merge styles in this tutorial. So let's go and start by turning on our grid lines again, and let's actually go to layout and to snap, and let's make that interval 1/4 inch this time. And since we're even numbers, these 1/4 inches, it divides perfectly evenly across this whole thing, which will be very useful here. And we're going to go up here to our snap to grid and snap to edge, and then we're going to use our connected line tool. And let's go and define kind of a mitered section to a frame. Okay, so we've got this drawn shape right here that we can see, and let's apply a surface to this. So we've got this tool, it's right next to the carve region, and in between the select texture, both of those we've used, and select surface here. If you click on that, it's got a few selections of domes and other curve shapes that you can apply to things, and you can manipulate them over here to see exactly what they're going to look like. And some of them are specific directional domes. So this one is curving from the top down. We're calling it a left dome, and then that's a right dome. It curves the other way. And since we're on this end of the board, let's take this one and apply it to this side of the board. Okay, so let's zoom in here and kind of rotate the board to see what we've got. And it looks mostly just like kind of a flat area. You don't see a whole lot of dome to it. We're going to use our height tool. Let's enhance that by increasing that height. We'll take it to 999, which is the highest point that you can go in height. And now you can start seeing that curve in the shape. Let me bring it up some more. But let's also lower that depth to 1/2 inch. And now we can really start seeing that depth. Okay, click the F to snap it back to the front. Now we need to take this and do this to all 4 sides of this box lid or this frame that we're making. Let's look at this. A lot of people, their initial thought is to just mirror this, and if you do that, I'll show you what happens. Since we have selected a specific directional dome, you see that that same direction is used over here, so it's not actually creating a mirror of that. It's creating a mirror of the drawn shape, but the dome itself is not mirroring properly. So let's undo that and snap this back to the front, and let's just use our drawing tools to just draw in the rest of these shapes. And with this snap to grid, it becomes so simple to just draw all these shapes in very quickly. Make sure that they are closing, that you have closed shapes. Let me draw the last one in here. Okay, let's just start at the top. We're going to go to select surface again, and then this time we're going to select the appropriate dome. So top dome, it's going from the top point down, And then we're going to select a 1/2 inch for depth, height at 999, and then just keep going around and doing the same thing to all of them. So domes, this one is the right dome. Click OK. 1/2 inch, 999. Select this one, surface, and this is a bottom dome, right? Yeah. 1/2 inch, 999. Okay. So now we can see we've got this shape wrapped all the way around. Now we're seeing some gaps show up here. There's a couple things that are happening. One, we've got to make sure that we do our optimization and make sure we turn that bit optimization to best. But you also see that there's a little lip edge here. So what's happening is the floor feather. And this is in, I believe, just in the Designer Pro. Floor feather drops the edges, all the edges of the patterns down to a consistent depth level, and that is so that your feathers are nice and even. But in this particular thing, we don't want those edges to be dropped down. We need them to all be at whatever terminating height that they're actually drawn in as. So we can go through here and deselect floor feather on all those. And again, I don't believe that is floor feather is even in the basic software. So if you're working in basic software and you don't see this, you're probably not even going to see this problem. It's already going to be what you see now. And let's turn off that grid just so we can see it. So now we can see that we've kind of sloped down the edges of this entire box top. So some very nice shaping. So let's snap that back. Let's snap that back to the front. And let's now use our rectangle tool, and let's draw a rectangle here in the middle. And let's space it in a little bit. We can turn the grid back on if we want to see it, but it'll snap even without it, and you can just visually see. So I'm spaced in here. And let's use the dome or the surface tools again. Let's apply a dome in the center here. And I've got a few different domes. We can look at them. There's a double dome, double down dome, horizontal, all of these. Let's use that double dome and click OK. Alright, so now it kind of recesses that in, and again, a very, very subtle dome here. There's not a whole lot going on with that height. So we can exaggerate that height, of course, by increasing it to 999. And we can zoom in here and see, okay, much more definition to our dome arc there. And again, it looks like we're seeing the effects of that floor feather with the line that's on our edges here. So click on, turn the floor feather off. That means it will, instead of dropping it down to be a consistent depth edge, it'll just terminate at wherever the depth happens on this particular pattern. And we've got a fairly nice beginning of a box top here. We can even drop this down to 1/2 inch too, just to give us even more dramatic arching and doming. Okay. So now that we have the general kind of shape of our box top, or you could be using these same techniques to be making this a picture frame if you wanted, and this could just be carved out or cut out. But let's do some patterning. Let's do some decorative work on this particular piece and show you how a lot of this merging works. So let's click on the blue shell, go to the pattern, the basic library again, and let's go to filigrees. Filigrees are just nice little decorative pieces. These are easy to work with, and let's just go drop one on the board here. And let's position it so that it fits within our little dome on the edge here. And we might need to turn that snap tool off so that we have a little more finesse on how we're positioning this. Let's turn that feather to none. And let's set the depth of this pattern at the same depth that we set this dome here, to 1/2 of an inch. Of course, all of this is just, disappearing behind our project here. But let's open up that carving list, view carving list, and let's look at that. And we've got the different drawn pieces here. And let's take that bottom one. Let's find it. That bottom one, and let's put it in a group with that filigree we just put there. So now they are in a group, and I can take this, not the filigree part, but just the bottom surface, the dome part that we made, and over here you can see the merges. If I click on that, it gives me some options there, and I can click additive or subtractive or normal, which just removes it. If I put additive on there, it takes that pattern and then actually merges it to the curve. So you can see how it actually conforms to that curve shape and makes it part of that background feature that we've given it. And because this is in this folder, that merge is only going to affect what is inside of this folder. So I can take these filigrees and let's maybe copy and paste this. Paste. I've got another one here. But you see how it's outside of the folder? If I drag it in that folder, then it shows up as part of that merge. Anything outside of that folder is not being affected. So you can get very sophisticated with your merging because you can isolate certain sections and just have certain things merge with them. So let's actually flip. Let's rotate it 180. So we got kind of a patterning here. And then let's take both of those and copy and paste them. And of course, we need to drag those into our group folder again. And let's move that down. So we end up with kind of a nice little pattern here, and we can adjust things to tighten them up so that it terminates on that edge in a fairly decorative way. And now we can take all of these and right click and let's mirror this 4 ways. Okay, so that gives us a lot of patterns, a lot of them that are not showing up because we haven't put them into a folder yet. So let's find which ones go where. So this is going to go into that folder. These ones, this one goes into that folder. This one goes into that folder. And then so on and so forth. Okay, so now we have all of these, and we need to find that top section. So let's take that top section and make a folder, and take all of those filigrees and drop it into that folder, and then take that section and make it additive merge as well. And now we've got half of the bordering done very quickly. And looks like we could do a little bit of adjustment here. And that's the nice thing about this mirroring, is that I can make the adjustments to just this one little section, and it's going to change it all the way around the entire board. This is another reason why this carving list is so important, because you can see how it gets difficult to even select the pattern you're trying to select when you've got different background elements there. Okay, I think that's probably good enough. Let's click to the front again, and let's do the same thing to these sides. While we're here though, we might as well rename our groups. We can call this one top. Rename bottom. Remember, you got to hit that enter in order to retain the name. And let's go ahead and copy one of these and paste it. And we'll close that. And let's take the left side. Let's make a group. We'll call it left. And we'll take this one, make a group, call it right. And then let's move this pattern. And we want to rotate this. So we can go to flip and rotate. Let's rotate 90 degrees clockwise. Position it here, about where we expect it. And then this is the left side, so let's drop it into that folder. Of course, we need to make these additive, the merges on both of those sides. Additive. Let's zoom in here and make sure our positioning looks good. And then let's do the same thing that we did on the side over here. Copy, paste, and then we did a 180 rotate. Looks like our spacing might be a little different on this side. So got to get a little tighter. Copy, paste. Oh, exit. Let's move this over. So this one gets a little tighter, not quite as perfect a spacing, but you can tweak it so that it looks good and it looks right. And of course, if I was designing this for carving, I would spend quite a bit of time just finessing my design and getting it just perfect, which I recommend everybody do when you're designing. Okay, so let's take these and mirror them 4 ways. And then we just need to find or apply them to the appropriate folders, either left or right. And now we've got a very nice carved decorative edge to our picture frame or box lid. So let's do some more in the center here. Let's close that, and let's look. This looks like a prestigious looking piece. Let's add this shield in the middle here. Close these folders. So we're going to do the same thing with the shape we drew here, and that shield. I'm going to create a group, rename, just call it the center, and let's add that shield in there and do the same thing. We're going to make that additive, and you see how there's a big lip here? That means that I don't have these set at the same depth. So remember, I set that background to a 1/2 inch, and that shield is coming in at 0.231. If I set it at a 1/2 inch as well, that means it's going to come from the same depth level, and it's going to rise right up just as if I had applied this to a flat background. And so you get a much cleaner look if you have consistent depths that you're working with. Let's click back to the center there. So we're getting a very regal looking project here. Let's keep adding more patterns to this. And this is kind of the fun of designing with the CarveWright software, is you can just keep adding more and more pieces to your design and getting more and more decorative with it. So let's try putting some filigrees in here. Let's make consistent depths, add it to the center there. Let's try a mirror all. Of course, we got to move all those in. Let's adjust. Let's check out some more patterns here. We've got some leaves. I think the leaves might be good for this particular design. Yeah, let's add these leaves in here. Same depth, 1/2 inch. Mirror all, and drop these into that folder. Okay, we can see some interferences here with our feathers, just like we have seen in our other projects. So we're using our eyes to make sure that we're observing what our project is going to look like. And let's take those feathers off and remove that interference. And we can zoom in and really look at this and see exactly what we're going to get with our box lid here. Pretty nice project. I'm going to go ahead and show you some more features while we're here. I'm going to take all of these pieces, these carvings in here, I'm going to select them all, hold down the shift button and select all of those. I'm going to right click and I'm going to select hide. When you're working on projects and you want to see multiple variations of it, or you can, instead of starting a whole new project, you can just have whole sections or folders that you hide, and then put something else on there so you can see different variations on the same project. I use hide all the time because I'm never quite satisfied until I've seen all the other ideas that I have. So sometimes my folders will have multiple hidden sections or patterns all over them, as I've tried some ideas, hid them to try a different idea, and then I end up with one that maybe a few iterations later that leaves a bunch of folders hidden. So I want to show how text works with this as well. So I click on the text tool, I can click on the board, and then we can choose our font and just type something out. I'll just type out CarveWright. And then, okay, if we're in raster mode, we can just click OK, and raster is going to work just like the patterns do. So if I want it to appear on there and to merge with that, I need to set it at the same depth level. and then drag it into that folder where I've got that merge. And now it will wrap along that surface there. But say I want to do this with one of the other styles of text. Let's right click on this, go to edit text, and let's select outline. And then we can see here that even though it's in there with that merge, outline is not working because outline is a vector function. It's going to use that V bit to go and trace over shape rather than doing the rastering, and so it does not know how to conform to that shape. So what you do in the case of a vector function, whether it's lines we've drawn here or an outline or centerline text, which are all vector functions, we're going to use the conform button. And this is part of Conforming Vectors add-on. When you click on that, then Conforming Vectors allows those vector lines to be merged with an underlying rastered shape. So the way the machine is going to work is it's going to carve all of this first, and then it's going to ask for the bit change. You're going to put the bit in, and then it's going to route this into the surface that it just carved. So it will already know what this surface looks like because it just carved it. So this can be applied to drawn shapes as well. So let's say we are creating a decorative element here, and we want to apply a V-bit to that. Let's go select like a 90-degree V-groove, and let's make it 1/8 of an inch deep. Click OK, and of course it's only showing part of that line, although that ends up being kind of a nice effect on this one, but it's not what we had fully intended. If I click that conform, it will then make that entire line conform to that shape. And you notice it's not even in the folder. So the conforming vectors does not specific to any folder. It's just going to take that vector and apply it to any surface that is underneath it without it needing to be nested in a folder or anything like that. Okay, so that explains merges and conforming vectors.